It's another beautiful day for baseball in Los Angeles.
And baseball podcast.
Josh Schaefer and Blake Harris
Cover everything Dodgers right here on Inside the Ravine.
How's it going, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Inside the Ravine. Joining me, as always, from the beautiful Ontario Reign headquarters, my co-host Josh Schaefer. Josh, how are things over there in the beautiful Ontario Reign headquarters?
Just lovely. The back office that I'm in right now, I'm in a little conference room. I don't think there's much airflow in here. It's very hot. I've been in here for 5 minutes and I'm dying here.
Makes sense. It's like the opposite of what your arena should be. Like I'm saying, man, just go to the arena where it's freezing cold.
It is freezing up there.
Post up somewhere in there. That way you'll be comfortable one day.
Yeah.
Like I said, one day we'll
there's
get you
no
on the
ice in the summer. No ice in the summer, so it's not going to be very cold over there.
All right, so you might have to just post up from there. But make sure you guys follow us on social media, whatever app you guys use. We're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at Inside the Ravine. You guys can also watch and listen to our full shows over on YouTube. And make sure you guys listen to the podcast wherever you guys get your podcasts. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. We're on the Odyssey app as well. The show is brought to you by Odyssey Sports. So again, wherever you guys get your podcasts, go over there, give us a listen, give us a download, give us a nice little rating, whatever helps. Josh, we were going to start today's episode with some negativity, but I think we should start with some positivity because the Dodgers, they were riding a 4-game losing streak. Things were not looking great. The end of the Yankee series wasn't pleasant. The start of this Red series especially wasn't pleasant. But that's why you throw Clayton Kershaw out there when you desperately need a win. The Dodgers win 6-0. Jokingly, I think I tweeted saying, I'm going to need 22 runs today to feel kind of confident in picking up a victory. But with Clayton Kershaw on the mound, I guess all you really need is a couple of runs. So the Dodgers, they snap their losing streak. Clayton Kershaw does Clayton Kershaw things once again. And they pick up a much-needed victory as they head to Philly. But I was not expecting the Cincinnati Red Series, Josh, to be as difficult as it was. I thought they were going to go on in, probably take 2 out of 3, maybe even sweep them. But the Dodgers, they got a wake-up call, and maybe a much-needed wake-up call, as now they're all of a sudden a game and a half behind the D-backs.
Yeah, and it was a much needed win, and obviously a fantastic outing from Kershaw. He goes 7 innings, and no runs, 5 hits, struck out 9, only walked 2. Another phenomenal outing from Kershaw, and thank goodness for him, because obviously we've talked about how the starting rotation hasn't been great as of late, outside of him, maybe Bobby Miller, but the bullpen has not been very good for the Dodgers at all over the last couple of games, and just over the last couple of weeks in general. But it was a big win for the team today. They scored relatively early, added more later, and got out of the game unscathed.
Yeah, I mean, with Kershaw, he had kind of that rough month of May where he had a couple of good starts, but for the most part, it was like, I think the second worst month of his entire career. But things have changed in the month of June. He's been fantastic. 7 scoreless innings, 9 strikeouts, did allow 5 hits, didn't really have the Reds threatening at any point. I think there was at one point they had runners on the corners with no outs. He managed to get out of that. But for Kershaw, this is his 3rd start this season with 7 scoreless innings and 9 strikeouts. That's the most in all of baseball, which is just insane. It was his 5th start this year in which he's gotten at least 7, his 5th start with at least 9 strikeouts. And Josh, today was actually a historic start for Kershaw. It was his 63rd career start of 7 scoreless innings, officially tying Don Sutton for the most in Dodgers history. So it's year 16. He's still doing it. He's still one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. I think he's like 4th in all of baseball in strikeouts, 2nd in the National League. He's 1st in wins. His ERA, I think, is top 5. Everything else essentially is top 5. And Josh, we're officially on 3,000 strikeout watch. He is now 100 strikeouts away. I did the math. I used my Arizona State education to crunch the numbers and do this. He's averaging 7.15 strikeouts per start this year. If he keeps up that average, if he keeps up that pace, he'll need to make 14 starts to reach 3,000 strikeouts, which I think would put him early mid-September. So if Clayton Kershaw is able to avoid an injury, he'll reach 3,000 strikeouts. But again, asking Clayton Kershaw to avoid an injury is kind of asking a lot at this point in his career, I think.
I think that many starts is kind of asking for a lot, especially this season. I mean, if he goes another year, I think that's something that he could hit without a doubt. But look, I mean, it's just a really cool milestone. I remember being in Arizona for a Yankees Diamondbacks game when CC recorded his 3,000th strikeout, and it was just kind of a cool moment to be at. Even though I've got no connection to the Yankees, no connection to CC Sabathia, it was just something that was cool to be at. And the fact that Kershaw is still relatively within striking distance of hitting that milestone for his Hall of Fame career is really cool. So it's gonna take a lot to get there. More importantly, it's just gonna take a lot of innings. So you hope that Kershaw has the longevity to get there. But we'll see what happens. I think that this is something that's going to go beyond this season if he decides to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, if he pitches next season, he'll hit it relatively quickly. It's just a matter of wanting him to get it this year just in case he decides to call it quits. But he can do it. It's just a matter of if he's able to stay healthy, because I think he's made 13 starts so far this year. If he needs another 14, that puts him at 27. I think if you stay healthy for a season, you usually should make 30 or 31 starts. So I guess technically that's maybe like 3 or 4 weeks to spare if he does go down with an injury. So there's hope, but I just want to be on Kershaw watch because, again, 100 strikeouts, that's not a whole lot. One final thing on today's game, Josh, I just want to throw out there. I just want to give a quick shout out to a guy we probably have not mentioned since the season began. We've probably only talked about him during the offseason when they signed him, but that's David Peralta, who got off to a really slow start through the first month and a half, 2 months of the season, but quietly he's been maybe the second or third best hitter for the last 5-6 weeks for the Dodgers. I know he's been hitting the ball well recently, but I didn't realize how good it was. So he had a 4-hit game today. Honestly, could have been a 5-hit game. He had one out that had like a high expected batting average. He smoked it. But since May 1st, David Peralta is hitting 342, hitting 378 since May 20th. I think he just had like a 7 or 8 game hitting streak that came to an end, but again, 4 hits today. So David Peralta, if he gets going, we've seen him be a Dodger killer in years past. He doesn't have to be that all-star kind of caliber player he was a couple years ago, but if David Peralta keeps playing the way he's playing and he's your number 7, number 8 hitter in the lineup, all of a sudden, again, this Dodger lineup, they find another way to get that much deeper.
Peralta was somebody that, through the first couple of weeks of the season, was somebody that was kind of just like, all right, he's here, whatever. Maybe he's a good depth piece going forward. And for me, there has never been a thought that's like, why is this guy here? Because he's just been around. He's just been here. But Peralta, I mean, especially like you said, since May 20th, he's been right up there. It's been him and JD Martinez, 2 former Diamondbacks who have been the team's 2 best hitters. And just in the month of June so far, again, we're recording this episode on June 8th, so it's been 8 days, but in those 8 days, he's 8 for 15 at the plate. Like, I'm not saying that he's going to keep that pace through, a span of just, 5-6 games for him at the plate throughout the entirety of the month. But going back all the way to May 20th, he's been fantastic. And I mean, you just look at the last couple of months overall. Go back to April. He had a lot of ABs in April, and he ended up ending the month with a 136 clip. And it's just, I mean, I don't want to put too much stock into actual batting average here, but I think that these numbers do kind of show just his overall improvement at the plate, having hit below 140 in April. He then hits 300 in May, and so far he's hitting 533 in June. And like I said, it's only been a couple of games, and you don't want to put too much stock in a batting average, but his actual approach at the plate and the fact that he's actually getting some balls to land, he's making better contact, he's been more consistent at the plate. You can see that improvement month to month throughout the first couple of months of the season so far.
Yeah, I mean, he was just a depth piece earlier in the season. I think he only signed for $6 million. So the fact they're getting this kind of production, because again, he's been playing really, really solid defense out there in left field. He's not striking out really at all. He's hitting the ball hard. Now he's starting to get some results. So if David Peralta can keep this up, maybe again hit like 260, 270 the rest of the way, hit a home run every now and then, the Dodgers, they'll gladly take that. So David Peralta really been turning things around. Wanted to give him some love because he's been a pleasant surprise, and I think the Dodgers could desperately use him to keep this up. But Josh, unfortunately, that's probably going to be the only positivity in today's today's episode because we do have to talk about what happened the last 2 games. And the first, this is the most important because this is something we talked about last week, something we got to talk about again because the situation is just getting out of hand. And that's with Noah Syndergaard. I mean, obviously, he had that really rough outing last week. He had that post-game quote where he said he would give his hypothetical firstborn in order to essentially pitch the way he used to pitch. I think yesterday might have been his worst outing of the season. Allowed 6 runs, 3 innings, had nothing working. I mean, the crazy thing with Noah Syndergaard, it's the fact that it's not like he's just throwing meatballs down the middle of the plate. He's throwing pitches that are out of the zone that guys are just hitting, into the stands. So he's not even making bad pitches. His pitches are so bad, guys are able to turn on them. ERA above 7. His numbers across the board are the worst in baseball among all starting pitchers. We talked about kind of what the Dodgers could do with him if he had another clunker of a start, and it looks like we have the decision from the Dodgers. They placed him on the injured list this morning with a, air quote, blister injury. He did have a blister problem about a month ago in Milwaukee. Hasn't been mentioned ever since. There's been no talk of any sort of blister injury, and I don't think you can officially put someone on the IL with the designation of sucking, so they had to give him something. So Josh, he's placed on the injured list with this blister injury, and they pretty much came out and they said, we don't know how long it's going to be. He's not even with the team anymore. He flew back to Los Angeles. They've kind of pretty much said, we're doing this to have him reset. Hopefully he can figure some things out. So Noah Syndergaard on the IL. He's at least out for 2 weeks on the 15 days, so it's going to be at least 2 weeks until we see him. Josh, do you think we're going to see him 2 weeks from now when his time is up, or do you think this might be a lengthy stay where they just kind of keep him down until they might need another guy to get a start?
I think this is it, and I think it has to be. Obviously, he has not been good. He's now at an ERA. He's now with an ERA of 7.16. Yesterday, 3 innings, 6 runs on 7 hits, only 3 strikeouts, and 22 earned runs over his last 23 innings. It has just not been good. It's been consistently bad. And the only times it hasn't been consistently bad is when it has progressively somehow gotten even worse. And I mean, you said this. I mean, obviously we're going to focus on the Dodgers here, but through the first couple of games of the series against the Reds, I think I'm already willing to give Elly De La Cruz the most exciting prospect in baseball tab, because my God, that guy is unbelievable. And it all started with just his first inning, just flying around the bases in his debut, which was crazy. But you tweeted this already. You texted our friend who was the broadcaster for the Dayton Dragons last year, who has seen more of Elly De La Cruz than either of us. And you texted him I think he's actually going to hit it out today hit it all the way out against Noah Syndergaard. And he damn near hit it out of the park. I mean, it was just, that was one of those things where it's you watch it and you think man, that is exciting for him and for their fan base. But that is just, I mean, not shocking. It's demoralizing for Noah Syndergaard, because you just knew that was going to happen. And it was just a prime opportunity for Elly De La Cruz to do that. And good for him. But I mean, you called that. You texted our friend that was going to happen, and it nearly happened. Just absolutely destroyed the ball, and it got worse from there.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I said out of the stadium, and it was hit to the very last row. I was kind of hoping it would just go a little more feet up there and actually leave the stadium, because what a call shot that would have been. But yeah.
Also, real quick, did you see, everyone on Twitter's oh, you could have asked for so much money. Did you see what the kid asked for who caught the ball?
Yeah, it ended up being a lot. It was signed balls for him and his friends, signed photos for him and his friends, and then I think it was a jersey or something, or no, it was a bat and a hat, I think.
I don't know if it was a bat and a hat. I didn't bat and a hat. Lol. I didn't see that part. I just think it's hilarious that he was look, I'm here with the boys. I just want signed baseballs from me and the boys. I think that's so funny. And then there was a photo of all of them in the locker room,
yeah, just posted up with them
with the epic lighting and stuff.
That's something I can't remember if we talked about this before, Josh, but let's put yourself into that kid's shoes. You catch Elly De La Cruz's first career home run. Now, if this is some random prospect, like a Johnny DeLuca, let's say it's Johnny DeLuca. Johnny DeLuca may become something special in the near future. If I catch that, I'm thinking, okay, I want to get a photo with him, get an autograph ball, maybe get like a signed jersey or something like that, but I'll call it after that. If you catch De La Cruz's, who's the number one prospect in baseball, this guy might be a future superstar. I think I saw something that the ball is technically worth like $10,000. I don't know how they put a value on that, but the ball was worth $10,000. You know that this is going to be a big deal. I'm asking for more than what this kid got. Like, I'm holding out. If I have to, like, I will give him the ball eventually, but I might be leaving the stadium with that where I can get some serious consideration because this ball is insanely valuable, and I want to get a haul of a package in return in exchange because you could get it. They'll pay up. The team will pay up. And like when I heard what he got, like, signed balls and photos for the boys, I was thinking, for a guy of De La Cruz's status, I feel like he could have gotten a whole lot more.
Yeah, he probably could. He probably could have gotten a lot more, but I like that he just wanted signed baseballs for him and the boys. I think that's super cool because you're at the game with the boys, right? Also,
Yeah.
I love that he was wearing a polo. Like he was dressed as if he were a frat dude at an SEC college football game. Like that's how he was
100%.
dressed. Was like he was doing that.
Spot on.
I mean, I think that's the best way I can describe it. But yeah, I mean, I think it was super cool. And honestly, if I was in that situation, I feel like I'm just asking for like, just give me 2 season tickets. Give me 2 season tickets. It can be like second level. Doesn't need to be behind the plate. Last row of the second level. Just give me 2 season tickets. That's all I want. And trust me,
Yeah.
I know that your rookie contract can even afford to pay for it, even if the team didn't want to just give them. Like, I feel like that's not asking for a lot. Obviously, I'm not going to every game, but like hook up my dad, hook up you,
Right.
just get people tickets. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe that's me
obviously,
being greedy. I don't know. I've
No,
never been in that situation.
I was gonna say, Josh, I'd be the same. Like, signed ball, give me a signed bat, give me a signed jersey, and then yeah, pretty much at that point, just season tickets, and I don't care where they are. If they're, I saw someone say they should be season tickets in the spot that the guy caught it. Well, I'm pretty sure the Reds aren't selling seats, in the very last row of that section, so they could definitely accommodate. But yeah, for a guy like
That's a low ball. Like if
Yeah.
you're like, give me season seats and the tickets in the seats that I actually caught the ball in, the Reds would be like, sure, like
yeah,
here you go.
got it. You
Right?
got
Like,
it. Yeah.
yeah.
And again, this is just depending on the prospect. Like if this was just an everyday random prospect, like I said, give me a signed ball and let me just meet the guy. But for the number one prospect in baseball, yeah, I'm asking for quite a lot. But anyway, back to the whole Noah Syndergaard thing, Josh, because again, the fact that the Dodgers gave him a huge lead early on, he couldn't sustain it. And yeah, he goes to the injured list right now.
2
Yeah.
huge leads.
2 huge leads. Because, yeah, I think it was like 2 or 3. It was 3-0, I think, at the end of the first, and then it was 6-2 in the third inning. So they gave him a couple of leads.
I think it was 4-0, wasn't it?
Oh, even worse. Even worse. So he blew 2 leads. So he goes to the injured list now. And I know a lot of people are saying you got to designate him for assignment. You got to release him, which I totally understand. I totally get why you should release him because, again, you don't want him making any more starts for the Dodgers. But at this point, it's something we've talked about. Outside of Michael Grove, there's no one that you can really turn to, in the minors. Maybe Andre Jackson, but we've seen how that's gone. I'm good. Gavin Stone clearly isn't ready. He's probably not going to be ready for at least another month or two. So outside of Michael Grove, there's nobody that the Dodgers can really rely on. So I think that's why it's actually kind of smart to put Noah Syndergaard on the injured list, have him miss a couple of weeks. If Michael Grove doesn't pan out in a couple of weeks, you could turn to Noah Syndergaard. Maybe he's able to figure things out. Maybe a break is good for him where he can turn things around. If there's an injury in the starting rotation to a Kershaw, a Gonsolin, one of these guys, then you can turn to Syndergaard again because, again, if you release him, your options at that point are very thin. You're still paying him regardless, whether he's on the roster or whether he's not. You're still paying him the $10 million he's owed the rest of the year. So I'm actually in favor of it. I like him being on the IL. And like I said, Josh, I personally don't think he makes another start. But if he does, it's because the Dodgers desperately need him. But yeah, this is probably going to go down as maybe the second worst signing of the Andrew Friedman era, just because of how bad he's been. I get the good news is it's only a 1-year contract. It's not like what the Angels got with Tyler Anderson, where they signed him for a 3-year deal and he's been almost just as bad. The good thing is, if there's any silver lining, is the fact that it's a 1-year deal. They're out at the end of the year. But yeah, Josh, I agree. This should be the last we see of Noah Syndergaard, but I personally understand. I'm in favor. I support the whole put him on the IL with his blister injury and just have him in the wings waiting if, he's needed in a few weeks, next month, 2 months, whatever the reason is.
I think if you want to try to somehow maximize what you're getting out of Noah Syndergaard with how bad he's been in the rotation this year, look, the bullpen has been just as bad as Noah Syndergaard has been as a starting pitcher. If he comes back from this stint on the IL, and see if you can extend it if possible, because when you get somebody back to the rotation, maybe force him to the bullpen and see what he can give you in relief. Just give him an inning in the 6th or something like that, or the 7th. Like, see what he can do, because right now you've got guys in the bullpen that are just as bad, just in a smaller capacity, right? And maybe you give him a shot or two in the bullpen, and if it's more of the same, then maybe it's time to cut him loose. But right now, let him sit, let him recover from the blister thing that he's got for the next couple weeks. And when eventually the time comes that you've got more guys back in the rotation and Syndergaard is fully recovered, I say give him a shot in the bullpen, because why not? And if it doesn't work, you give him 1 or 2 outings. And if it's still more the same, I think it's time to move on.
Yeah, completely agree. Give him a shot, see if it happens. If not, then you can cut your ties. So the Dodgers are going to write this out. We'll see what happens, but Noah Syndergaard on the IL with a blister injury. So, Josh, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to quickly wrap things up, talking about something that actually might be even a little worse than Noah Syndergaard at the moment for the Dodgers. All right, we are back. We're going to wrap things up, Josh, talking about the Dodgers bullpen, because it's been bad, it's been horrible, it's been atrocious. However, today, Taylor Scott did throw 2 innings, and he has looked good since being called up, so maybe we've just been missing Taylor Scott. And also, Nick Robertson, who the Dodgers just called up the other day, he looked damn good yesterday, so maybe the Dodgers bullpen is now saved with the additions of Taylor Scott and Nick Robertson. But yeah, the Dodgers bullpen, we've talked about this so many times, they've been bad. This was a horrible week stretch for them where the bullpen just... so many guys came in, allowed a bunch of runs. Evan Phillips even had 2 really bad outings this past week. Josh, the craziest stat that I came across yesterday when doing an article, I believe, if I have it, is the fact that the Dodgers have the most losses in all of baseball this season when scoring 6 or more runs. And that's a large reason of their bullpen. So, again, we're almost halfway through the season. What can be done, do you think? Like, are these the kind of guys you just got to hope you ride them out and just hope they turn things around? Are there guys you think that they should maybe cut ties with? Or do you just hope and pray that a lot of these guys return from the injured list and, again, things just kind of figure itself out in the next few months?
I mean, honestly, I think it's a little bit of everything you just said, right? I think, number one, the Dodgers have to be in the market for a pitcher, whether it's a starter or a reliever. I think your biggest issue right now is a relief pitcher more than it even is a starter, because I think if you're the Dodgers, you're expecting to have your rotation healthy in even a couple of weeks here, aside from Walker Buehler. I mean, you should expect, All-Star break comes around, and I think right now the Dodgers are expecting Gonsolin, Julio, Dustin May, Clayton Kershaw, right? Like that. I think that's kind of what you're hoping for. And you want to rely, you don't want to have to, but I think you're going to rely a little bit on the guys that are currently out. And then also, you got to see what guys come around in the bullpen. Maybe you can restructure it a little bit. But I think the Dodgers have to be in the market for a relief pitcher. You just have to be, because you're not going to be able to rely on our Lord and Saviors, Taylor Scott and Nick Robertson. It's just not going to happen for the Dodgers. And that's kind of the issue that the Dodgers are in right now, is because nothing seems to be getting better at all. And it's just continuing to get worse. So, I mean, you look at the Dodgers bullpen stats as a whole this season, just looking at where they rank in the National League, ER, second to last, in saves, third to last, hits allowed, second in the NL, earned runs, second in the NL, whip, fourth in the NL, home runs allowed, second in the NL. They don't walk too many guys, so that's better. And they're about middle of the pack in strikeouts. But in terms of the actual offensive production of opposing teams against the Dodgers, it's been pretty good for everybody else. So the fact that the Dodgers bullpen ranks really in the bottom 2 of all of those categories in the National League this year, not a good sign. And then if you're looking overall, they're bottom 5 in ERA. They're bottom 8 in saves. They're bottom 4 or bottom 5 again in hits. Bottom 5 again in ERA, or in earned runs. Bottom 5 in whip. Like, that's just how it's been for the Dodgers this season, both in the league rankings and across baseball as a whole. So things haven't been good. Things need to improve, but it's just been a roller coaster all season. I'd say on a consistency standpoint, I'd say it's been consistently bad. There have been some moments that have made it go up and down a little bit, but I mean, they've been short. You've got like a series of bad pitching, especially out of the bullpen. And then you'll like start the next series with an unreal bullpen game. Maybe Syndergaard goes 3 innings and the bullpen doesn't give up a run, right? And then the next day, it's like 5 great innings at the beginning and the bullpen blows it. Like, that's just how it's been all season long. And it's not sustainable because, again, we talked about this earlier in the season. Dodgers weren't scoring runs first couple weeks of the season, right? Well, now you just gave that stat about scoring 6 runs or more. And we're at the point where you expect the offense to do something. I mean, you just look at this Red Series as a whole. And, 8 runs in a loss on Tuesday, 6 runs and a loss on Wednesday. Sure, the Dodgers blow up for 8 runs on Friday and then don't do much against the Yankees the next 2 games. But this has been the stretch for the offense recently. 6 runs and a loss to the Nationals, 9 runs, 6 runs, 10 runs and a loss to the Rays, 6 runs, 3 runs, 3 runs, 8 runs, 8 runs. Like, the Dodgers offense, for the most part, is scoring runs. It's baseball. You're going to have off days. But you cannot expect the offense to win every single game for you. You should absolutely expect the Dodgers to score 4 or 5 runs a game, right? You should expect that at minimum. And that's, I think, what they're doing right now. And the bullpen is letting them down every single game. Almost every single game.
The crazy thing is, if the Dodgers had the bullpen they've had like the last 5 to 6 years, they'd probably be on par with like the Tampa Bay Rays in regards to record, because so many losses, like you just rattled off just recently, how many runs this offense has been scoring. I mean, this is like one of the best offenses the Dodgers have ever had, and they're struggling to win games. Josh, the bullpen ERA this year is the second worst it's been since the team moved to Los Angeles. That's how bad it is. And even before yesterday's game, I went and I crunched the numbers. If you took Evan Phillips out of the equation, their bullpen ERA would be above 5. So it's been horrible all season. Hopefully they're able to turn a corner. My only concern is because they need bullpen help so badly, they're probably going to have to overpay at the trade deadline to get some bullpen arms to really help out the back of the bullpen. Because, again, Blake Trinan, Alex Reyes, Jimmy Nelson, Ryan Pepio, JP Fireisen, they're all Daniel Hudson. They're all guys who could be back at some point this year for the Dodgers. You just can't really bank on it. So, again, maybe Nick Robertson and Taylor Scott are our saviors, and they're the guys that can shut it down. But the Dodgers need help. They need guys. They need help badly, because you can't ask for Alex Vesia, Yency Almonte, Phil Bickford, Brusdar Graterol, Victor Gonzalez, Caleb Ferguson. You can't ask for every single guy to be better. A few guys might be better. You might get 2 or 3 of those guys that turn things around, but you're not going to get it out of all of them. So the Dodgers bullpen, that's their biggest issue. Hopefully they can get a little better, because there was that stretch, Josh, where like 3 weeks the Dodgers had like no off days. Their starters weren't going deep at all. The bullpen was being overworked. Maybe that played a little bit of a role, but hopefully, again, we can kind of right the ship, get a little better, and move forward. With Nick Robertson and Taylor Scott in the back of our bullpen.
Taylor with an E?
Yeah, Taylor with an E. So when you're trying to write that down, it gets a little confusing. Gets a tad bit confusing, so stay on top of that. So that does wrap it up for today's episode of Inside the Ravine. Again, as always, make sure you guys follow the show on whatever social media app you guys use. We're on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Inside the Ravine. You guys can also watch and listen to the full episodes over on YouTube as well. We're also on Spotify, Apple, the Odyssey app, so wherever you guys get your podcast, you guys can find us there. Josh, any parting words, any farewells before we wrap up the show today?
Hey, a road trip continuing. So, like to see the Dodgers go to Philly this weekend, get a couple of games, and then coming back home for 9 of the next 11. And your 2 road games in that stretch after you come home are right down the freeway in Anaheim. So, you got some home games coming up, 2 beatable teams in that homestand after the Phillies, including the White Sox and the Giants, and then you get the Astros. So, that should be fun.
Let's win some more games. Let's keep this winning streak going. But for Josh Schaefer, this has been Blake Harris. Thank you guys so much for listening as always, and enjoy the rest of your day wherever you may be.